humans, this is an adoption campaign, but it's not for me or Mr. Buttons or Frank over there. It's for you, humans. This is a call to humans to adopt our movement, to adopt our cause.
This isn't just about saving one of us.
It's about saving all of us.
Thousands of lives, every single day.
It's about support for every one of us four, and sometimes not four-legged best friends, waiting to meet a best friend of our own. With Best Friends Animal Society leading the charge.
Shelter by shelter, city by city.
We can save thousands of pets each day. Join us. Together we can save them all.
Thank you for joining us for Pet Connect. I'm Tara Douglas. We're going to get right to our special guests today because I have Ashley and Jessica Cunningham. They are here today to share all kinds of information about volunteering at the Sylacauga Animal Shelter, and who better to talk to about that than two of the people that are right there in the front lines. So thank you so much, guys, for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So one thing that has been so wonderful lately at the shelter is how many volunteers we've had coming out on Saturdays for dog walking.
Yes.
And the two of you are some of the leaders there with the dog walking situation. So let's talk about walking dogs at the shelter.
Yeah. We've had a great turnout in the past month and a half. It's been really encouraging to see everyone from the community come out. It's been about, I would say, like an average of 30 people every Saturday, which is amazing. So we're there every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. You can come for the whole time or just part of the time, but we have all the dogs there, about 60 dogs every Saturday that love going out for a walk, getting some exercise and socialization. So
And a couple of puppies.
yes,
So
and some
if
puppies
you
to cuddle.
have kids, you can come out, and as long as we have puppies, you know, we can safely play with them in the new yard.
And that was really nice because we got that yard in the back now.
Yes.
And we did have a few families that were there this past Saturday with younger kids, and we had puppies that had all their shots, so it was like the perfect situation. We're able to get the families in there and have the kids play with the puppies and socialize those puppies.
Yes, and they were really excited to do so. So it's really great to have like young kids enthused about the animal shelter, and hopefully it encourages them to come back.
Now let's talk about some of the dogs that we have there, because the more people we have, the longer the dogs can get out.
Yes.
And the quicker, I mean, we can start getting dogs out a couple of times. But
That actually has happened the past few weeks because people come and they have their favorite dogs. So we have this one sweet girl that comes and spends the entire time with one dog that she really loves, and that's great. So if we have more people coming every week like that, and you have a favorite dog,
okay
feel
to pick a
free.
favorite.
Yeah, it's okay to pick favorites.
I think so too. I mean, maybe we have time to walk another dog besides your favorite, but the longer they're out of those kennels, the better, and the more information we have about them.
Exactly, and it socializes them. It helps them get leash trained. So yeah, they're also out with the other dogs. Of course, they see the other dogs across from their kennel, but like when they're out on a walk, it really helps with their leash reactivity too. Knowing that all these dogs are here and they're walking by them, it really helps.
Now let's talk about some of the rules with dog walking. Now, what do people need to know before coming out to walk dogs at the shelter?
So you have to be at least 18 years old, but under 18 is welcome if you're walking with an adult 18 years or older, as long as the dog stays under the control of the adult. We do ask that volunteers keep the dogs at least 10 to 15 feet away from each other, just so that there's no interactions. It can be like a lot of dogs, a lot of heightened energy, so just make sure everybody stays safe. Keep the dogs from a safe distance. And then they can, take the dogs typically on like a 15-minute walk or so around the shelter area, and it's a great opportunity for everybody, I think. It's mutually beneficial.
And we've actually got a pretty good area to walk around the shelter.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
And some dogs may not want to walk. They may want to just like lay down in the grass and get belly rubs. The other day I came out and it looked kind of like a beach. Everyone was kind of tucked away in a corner, and all the dogs were getting belly rubs and attention, and it was really cute.
And that, I say every week when we talk about the dog walking that there's really something for everyone. If you don't necessarily want to walk, then you can sit with the dog and give it some love, and that can help tremendously. And if you want some exercise, boy, there are dogs that will take take you on a jaunt.
Yes, and we try to pair up the dogs. If you say, oh, I would like a more mellow dog, we will, go through our lists of dogs and find you a dog that actually is good for you and that is a good fit for that day. Because we want people to come back, and we don't want, people tramping all over being new,
And if you
by
need
the
a break,
dog.
you can go play with a kitty cat.
Yes, we do have the
Absolutely.
cats that need to be cuddled.
I don't talk about the cats enough at the shelter. We do have a cat room at the shelter, and there are plenty of opportunities to pet cats and to adopt a cat also. Now, the two of you have done such an amazing job with all of your volunteer activities at the shelter, but you also take pictures, you do a lot of the social media. So let's talk about how much it helps when we're discussing with rescues what dogs we have to go to other states, or if we're discussing with local adoptions, all the good information we can get with people coming out to walk the dogs and with you there spending time and taking pictures of the dogs.
That's a perfect example is a post we just did on social media about Kiwi, and we had one of our volunteers comment, oh, Kiwi walks really great on a leash because they've gotten to know Kiwi for the past couple of weeks, and that information is amazing. Like how they react around other dogs is helpful too, because when we come in, we do spend a lot of time at the shelter, but we don't know these dogs as intimately as like the shelter staff does. So when our volunteers will come back and tell us like a little tidbit about the dog on their, like they love the water, or
Then
they're
it's
so
kind of
sweet
a nice
and they're
like,
mellow.
selling point we can use when we're trying to get them to a rescue.
Yeah. The rescues are amazing. We would be pretty lost without rescues here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that. Let's talk about that entire process of how we can find rescues for the animals at the shelter and what needs to happen in order to get the animals there.
Well, so the shelter manager, Stephanie, has done a great job of reaching out to rescues all over the countries, in the Northeast, and kind of like the Mideast, to try to make connections to get some of the shelter dogs transferred there. So she made a connection with one in upstate New York, Hudson Paws. So we've been able to transport 2 runs of dogs up there now within the last couple of months. And the great thing about that rescue is that they specifically want dogs that have been in the shelter for a long time and maybe haven't had any luck getting adopted. So they've been able to take about, 36 dogs, I think, between both runs.
Since the beginning of this year.
Yeah, so that's
that's
awesome.
great.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are dogs that have been here in the shelter for
Like
a
Kay.
year. Kay, who is found at the Circle K. Great dog, just needs a little bit more work and a little bit more attention, and they're at that
Time to
facility.
come out of her shell.
They can provide that.
Yeah.
And Kay's got an interesting story because she was a stray at Circle K for quite some time, and when she was finally caught, she had her collar embedded in her neck. And so, that she's a very, that's a success story.
Yes,
they were able to
it is.
save her and
Exactly.
get her healthy and happy, and now she's got that opportunity to get adopted in New York.
Yes, and the shelter manager up there, we're in contact, and she sends us updates on all of them, saying they're doing so well. It's so
They
nice
like
to
the
hear.
cold weather.
They do like the cold weather. They love playing out in the snow. That's great. Not me, but the dogs do.
Now, one thing that Ashley and Jessica did not tell you, they are volunteers at the shelter. They do not work there, and the shelter did get this relationship with this rescue in New York. But these two drove the van up there both times to take these dogs to New York. So tell us about that. What was that like to drive to New York with a van load of dogs?
Our biggest concern was honestly going to be the weather, but because since it was in January and then February, but we got lucky with the weather both trips. So then the next biggest thing was just the 17 hours in the van with
some
puppies that weren't quite potty trained. But no, it's luckily we were able to get a van rental locally, from Birmingham, and outfitted it with all of the crates and carriers and had a safe journey up there. And yeah, it was a long trip, but they were happy to be there and stretch their legs when we finally made it.
I bet they were. Are they noisy, or are they just kind of subdued on a trip like that?
It depends. Most of the time they are actually quiet. We on this most recent trip we did have one that just
Sasha.
she did not want to be in it, but she was maybe a little bit of a pet favorite at the shelter and got
A lot of attention.
yeah. So she was pretty noisy.
Yeah.
When we would stop for gas, she would be like, "Oh, it's time to go out.
Yeah.
Let me out. Let me out."
Well, let's talk about the dogs. So some of the larger dogs, of course, are at the shelter, but we have puppies that need to get to these rescues. And before we go today, let's discuss fostering and what
Yeah.
needs to happen with that.
So if you're interested in fostering, please reach out to the shelter. We try to keep the puppies in a foster environment out of the shelter for 2 weeks prior to them being transported, just to make sure that they're healthy and ready to go for the trip, so that they don't, accidentally take anything with them up north. So if you are interested in fostering, we can definitely give you more information about that. The shelter's always looking for fosters for puppies and for adults. If you're looking to foster an adult, they have the foster to adopt program, of course, but if you also just want to give a dog a break from the shelter, whether it's for maybe 1 or 2 nights or a week, that's also great, because it again gives us that information about the dog's personality, how they do with other dogs, so that we can give that to potential adopters.
And it really, they enjoy, of course, having that break from the kennel.
Definitely.
And the longer that they are away from that kennel, the more information we can have. Because even though it's wonderful to have people come out and walk the dogs every Saturday, you don't always see all of their personality.
Yeah.
Because they got all that energy and ready to go right when they get out of that.
And of course, an animal is going to be different inside a home where it's relaxed and it's quiet and there's not, 60 other dogs vying for someone's attention.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, because you foster also, the two of you do everything, and we appreciate it. So let's talk about fostering puppies real quick. So we've got a couple more minutes. So let's talk about what that entails, because people will say, well, what can we do with these puppies?
Sure.
Sure, yeah. You will need an isolated area. The puppies have to be kept alone, and it is better to get at least 2 puppies.
Keep them company, yes.
Yes.
So separate from other dogs in your house. The shelter does provide the supplies that you need to foster them, which is typically going to be like a puppy pen play area, a tarp to protect your floors, and then the food, of course, and medicines that you would need for the puppies. And then it's just about keeping them healthy and happy, and changing out their newspaper a couple of times a day and giving them puppy cuddles.
Yeah.
Biggest thing is keeping them healthy.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and that's what it's about, is to
Yes.
get them in that healthy environment and protect them so that we
Yes.
can get them to where they can have that life.
And they're in the clear, and they are,
Yeah, they're
we
so
can-
young and their immune systems aren't fully there yet, so getting them out of the shelter environment really helps make sure that they're going to have a good, start. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate everything that
Thank
both
you.
of you do, and we've got a couple events coming up. One with Feral Dogs of Avondale Mill, but also one with the shelter. So let's talk about the shelter real quick. We've got an adoption event at Walmart.
Yes, at Walmart, April 11th, we're going to have a food truck event and an adoption event. So if you are in town, come down on your lunch break. A portion of the proceeds are going to go to the shelter to support our spay and neuter programs, which we absolutely need. Always spay and neuter your pets.
so it's Friday, April 11th from 10 to 3 at Walmart in Silicon.
And people can watch the Facebook page to get more information
Yes,
as
and
we
we'll
get closer.
have a couple of different dogs and puppies out there for little meet and greets. You can get to know them. We're going to try and have a cat. We have a really great cat at the shelter. He thinks he's a dog.
And the event is being sponsored by Walmart and
Local food trucks.
local
Okay.
food trucks.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Great.
thank you to them.
And now you mentioned it's going to go towards spaying and neutering at the shelter, but we also have a spay and neuter voucher event coming up through Feral Dogs of Avondale Mill. That's going to be this Saturday, March 15th from 9 to 11. We'll have the vouchers for sale at PetSense. If you have any questions or you need any information, please contact Feral Dogs of Avondale Mill directly through Facebook, or you can email us at theferaldogsofavondalemill@gmail.com. And it's $30 for a voucher to get your male or female dog or cat fixed. And make sure you bring cash or a check. But before we go, real quick, let's talk about these dogs. You just gave me some great pictures of some of the pups at the shelter.
So this is Rory here. She's very sweet. She's actually partially deaf, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so she's available for adoption. And then a couple of little cuties we fostered for a few weeks. This is Hyacinth and her sister Azalea. They are about 10 weeks old, looking for their forever homes at the shelter. Very cute.
Super sweet.
Yeah. Yep.
You
And
can
then
meet
we've
them
got
when you
dog
come out
walking.
and walk dogs this Saturday.
Yeah, you can
Now,
come
if
out
we
and
have
cuddle 'em.
thunderstorms, if it's terrible weather, please watch the Facebook page just in case we have bad weather because we can't get the dogs out if it's storming. But hopefully we'll have a break in the weather or there won't be
Yeah.
any bad weather at all
Fingers
and
crossed.
get these dogs out. But
Yeah.
thank you again for coming on the show. We'll
Thank
have
you.
you on again, and we appreciate you and appreciate everything the shelter's doing. And we'll have more Daybreak after these messages, but we'll see you this Saturday.